In the Philippines, where family names often mean power, even a single scandal can test the weight of influence. When Juanito Jose Remulla III, son of Justice Secretary Boying Remulla and nephew of Cavite Governor Jonvic Remulla, was arrested in a high-profile drug case, the nation watched closely. It wasn't just about one parcel of marijuana. It was about privilege, politics, and the question of whether justice in the Philippines can truly be impartial. This is Pinoy True Crime Story, and tonight we revisit the case that challenged the meaning of equality before the law. Juanito Jose Remulla III was born into privilege. He was the eldest son of Jesus Crispin, Boying Remulla, the sitting Secretary of Justice of the Philippines, and the nephew of Cavite Governor Jonvic Remulla. In the Philippines, where political dynasties shape power and bloodlines can open doors, the Remulla name was not just familiar, it was influential. It represented authority, connection, and the kind of reach that stretched far beyond Cavite, into Congress, and even the cabinet. But in October 2022, that name would be caught in a storm of controversy when Juanito Jose, better known as 30 to family and friends, was arrested in one of the most high-profile drug cases in recent memory. It all began with a parcel. On October 11, 2022, the Ninoy Aquino International Airport Interagency Drug Interdiction Task Group intercepted a suspicious package that had just arrived from the United States. The parcel was declared as clothing and shoes, addressed to Juanito Jose Remulla in Las Piñas City. When customs officials opened it for inspection, they discovered not apparel, but almost 1 kilo, more than 900 grams, of high-grade marijuana, known locally as Kush. The drugs, valued at over 1 million pesos, were carefully packed, but not carefully enough to escape detection. The next day, October 12th, authorities prepared for a controlled delivery. Agents from the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, disguised themselves and brought the parcel to the Remulla residence. At around 9 p.m., Juanito Jose himself signed for the package. The moment the ink touched paper, the operatives moved in. Within seconds, the son of the Secretary of Justice was in handcuffs. The arrest made headlines instantly. For ordinary Filipinos, it was almost surreal. How often did the son of one of the country's most powerful officials get caught red-handed in a drug bust? Social media erupted. Many asked if this was finally proof that no one was above the law, or if this was simply another case where influence would eventually tilt the scales of justice. What made the case even more explosive was the position of Boying Remulla himself. As Justice Secretary, his office oversaw the very prosecutors who would normally handle such cases. The conflict of interest was glaring. Almost immediately, Secretary Remulla released a public statement. He would not intervene in his son's case. He would not call in favors, and he would not lift a finger to influence the proceedings. His words were firm. His son must face the charges on his own. At the same time, Governor Jonvic Remulla, the boy's uncle, issued his own remarks. He said the family was deeply saddened, but that they respected the process. 30 will have to go through this himself, Jonvic declared. And while he expressed sorrow as an uncle, he echoed his brother's commitment to let the law take its course. For many, these words sounded reassuring, but skepticism ran deep. In a country where justice often favors the powerful, could the public really believe that the Justice Secretary's son would be treated the same as any other accused? Charges were swiftly filed. Juanito Jose Remulla III was accused of violating Republic Act 9165, the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. With the amount of marijuana seized, the penalty was severe: life imprisonment. When arraignment came, Juanito Jose pleaded not guilty. His defense team argued on technical grounds. They questioned the chain of custody of the seized drugs, raising doubts about whether procedures had been strictly followed. They pointed to possible lapses in how the package was handled and whether Juanito Jose knew what was inside when he signed for it. The prosecution countered with surveillance footage and official documents showing that the parcel was clearly addressed to him, that he personally received and signed for it, and that the evidence had been properly logged. For them, the case was straightforward. But as the hearings dragged on, the public couldn't help but notice something: the speed of the judicial process. While countless ordinary Filipinos languished for years in crowded jails awaiting trial, this case moved with remarkable efficiency. Some said it was proof of privilege, that the Remullas had the means to demand swift hearings. Others suggested the opposite, that the family wanted to show transparency and prove they weren't using influence to stall or manipulate the case. Beyond the legal battle, the case exposed painful contradictions. Just years earlier, under the Duterte administration, thousands of poor Filipinos had been killed in the war on drugs. Many never made it to court. They were gunned down in alleys, in slums, sometimes in their own homes. They had no chance to invoke their rights, no high-powered lawyers to argue technicalities, no powerful relatives promising impartiality. Against that backdrop, here was the Justice Secretary's son, alive, in court, given every protection of due process. In January 2023, the court finally issued its verdict. The Las Piñas Regional Trial Court acquitted Juanito Jose Remulla III. The judge ruled that the prosecution had failed to prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt. The chain of custody of the seized marijuana had weaknesses, raising the possibility of tampering or mishandling. Without airtight evidence, the case collapsed. The reaction was swift and divided. The Remulla family breathed a sigh of relief. To them, it was the end of a nightmare, proof that the system worked and that their son had been judged fairly. But for many Filipinos, the acquittal was another reminder of the country's double standards. They could not forget the thousands who had died in the streets without trial, their names unknown, their deaths unrecorded except as statistics in a brutal war on drugs. The story of Juanito Jose Remulla III became more than just the tale of a young man accused of receiving a parcel of marijuana. It became a symbol of the unequal face of justice in the Philippines. It forced people to ask, is the law truly blind? Or does it peek from under its blindfold when the accused carries a name too powerful to ignore? Years from now, the Remulla political dynasty will likely continue, as it has for decades. But this case will remain a stain on the family's narrative, a reminder of how quickly privilege can become a burden, and how fragile the line is between justice and power in the Philippines. The story of Juanito Jose Remulla III isn't just about the son of a justice secretary caught in a drug case. It's about the power of a family name, the questions of privilege, and the struggle of ordinary Filipinos who continue to ask, is justice in the Philippines truly blind? This has been Pinoy True Crime Story. If you found this episode thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories from the Philippines that uncover the darker side of power, corruption, and the fight for justice.